ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to That's Not That. This is a podcast surrounding the implementation and development of sport in society and the community. We will be discussing basically the foundations of sport, and then getting into the fundamentals of like gameplay, and then like mass appeal and things like that. I am Coach McMichaels, and I have an associate's degree in multi-sports in an applied science era. Personally, I have played a lot of sports growing up. I've watched a lot of sport growing up. I have a very diverse ethnic background, and it comes up a lot as far as like sport and things are concerned. My name is Arthur. For any of you who are concerned, yes, it is very strongly associated with the Arthurian legend. But thanks for tuning in. We're going to be covering a lot of different areas of sport. I know currently we're looking into the Olympics and going over more of like what is like the appeal for like society and things like that currently, as the games have like developed a lot since their original conception. It's like the second swing and the renewal of it, and it's like probably one of the like widest sweeping recreational sports areas. Fun fact, there are multiple areas of sport. So you're talking about recreational, and then there's also like the physical aspect of like being where it's like sport, like to sport something in the clinical or technical definition. We'll be diving further into like more of the small details and getting like very specific about like examples of things. For example, like if you wanted to talk about fundamentals, we'll talk about like the difference between doing like a regular squat or like a pause squat, and then something else like that. This one's kind of going all over the place a little bit. Guy, can you get that in there? Oh, you need to focus a little bit. But yeah, we're currently watching and waiting on the Olympics, working on sports culture and like working on like translatability between like different areas of life, and like the contentedness of participation in sport as it applies to like the community. We do have our own area of things that we would like to look at about that, but we currently have the World Cup we're hosting, which is a 3-company party. We also have the Olympics coming up in 28, so 26 we get the World Cup wrapping up, we get the Olympics in 28, and then all like between that we have a multitude of events. There's actually thousands of different categories of sport in the recreational setting as far as like participating in the activity is concerned, and something we're really passionate about on this channel and this podcast, and I'm very excited to explore more of this with you as we go forward. We will also be discussing and developing together with our audience a sports culture in essence, where it's like picking the basic components of what we discussed as far as sport is concerned, and like putting together a working culture for like development. The last most recent thing that I was watching, Formula Drift. Let's go look into it some more and maybe discuss that somewhat. It is a North American. We do use a Copilot. It's an AI service we actually had the honor of working on while I was doing school and finishing up my degree in sports. AI is a really big part of our lives today as we're getting into into our space age and computers and technology and like developing. Yes, that is something we use for our channel. And then so it's a Formula Drift. Back on that subject, it's a North American like version of the Japanese sport, which has like grassroots as far as like driving through the windy mountain roads. This one's more of a competitive stadium setting. Started in 2003, and it's by Jim Leal and Ryan Sage, and then it is the first and probably only official series of drift currently in North America. And appeal for me personally, I'd like to go into that first, is watching the cars, like literally like drive the curves and then the switches back and forth. Like you're hanging on the edge of your seat as like you're watching the bumper from one nearly clip the next one as they're transitioning from maybe like a left-handed turn into a right one. Personally, for me, I would like to see more, like maybe a longer run or race at it. We were just watching one of the events where it was inside of a stadium, and they had like motorcycles and things like that in between it, like going to do other things. There are two divisions. There's the pro and there's the prospect. Like most things, usually stat associated. We get the pro era where we're looking at like the professions, and then the prospects is usually like the feeding into it to go again, kind of getting things going that way. And looking at that, like to me personally, what I tune into, we're looking at like recruitment essentially is like maintaining the sport, and then not so much that. It's kind of like I know, especially with like communication and people and like having really big groups like work together, it kind of gets like a little weird, like having so much information going around. So like the prospects is like more of the filter, and then like the pros like the most ideal like portion of it right as we're getting into it. We have upcoming seasons. They don't participate everywhere. Currently, there are 7 states that they participate in. It's California, Georgia, Florida, New Jersey, Missouri, Washington, and Utah. They also compete internationally. For me personally, it's like I like watching the dance. Like scoring wise, there's like clipping zones and things like that, and like an explanation of that is like you have a wall where you're riding your curve out. Like the object of this sport is to drive your car the most sideways, and then that like maintain speed. And then more of a professional like aspect of it, like just to emphasize your control, is to have the cars like as close as possible together. So you have a lead car and a chase car, where your lead's going out to start, your crowd like interface as you're getting excited, and then you have your chase where they're like in underneath it and they have to follow the lead of the car. So like one's leading the dance and the other one's kind of following it. There's a lot of smoke and like burnt rubber and things like that. It's like a really fun thing for somebody that like likes automotive sports. It is kind of chaotic, which is appealing, but it's also in a controlled setting where you're getting more of like a satisfying show, I guess, or a burst, essentially. Scoring, like we were mentioning, is the drift line. You have your angle and you have your style. I like style. Point style is like a really big thing, personally. There's like really loud and like in your face liveries and things like that. The cars are like really like highly tuned. They're also ultra light, which I do like find like kind of weird as far as like development of the technology is concerned. If you want to look at like the older cars and stuff like that, like they're metal and like kind of heavy, right? And they're like stiff and very robust. And then you would look at something in Formula Drift as they're going out, and you notice like the front tires, they have excessive camber, where they're like leaning out and kind of creating like an arch, where they're like opening up to like get more steering angle. And then they're like they have where they're pitched to the rear a little more, where it's like the car hooks up better, transferring from the motor to the ground as far as torque is concerned, because they do have to slide sideways, right? So you get the camber in the front for opening the angle for steering, for control and guidance to the direction, and then you have like a minute amount of camber in the rear, right? So it has so it slides better, right, essentially, and it lends itself to maintaining and preserving the structural integrity of the driveline components. It's really fun to watch. You should like tune into them. I know like on YouTube they have a lot of these different events and things like that, and they have fan comps. They have live showings. They're like a few hours of your time at least, but just something like nice to watch casually, just to like watch and get into like the automotive sports, something like pretty recent. What else would we like to go talk about here today? Because this one's not really sounding. Personally, looking into the sport, development-wise, like how would somebody go about like getting into something like this? Is like something I'm asking myself. There's the development of like your car, and then there's like personal development too. It's like a lot of like high speed, like turning and things like that. So I would say like something physical, like development-wise, might be a really good thing to go look into. So like your physique. For like high speed or high velocity. Yeah, there's a lot of speed involved in it, but most of the speed and things like that are like kind of like output, again, going into like transferring it. If you want to go look at it again, you get the motor, put a lot of horsepower, it gets into the tires, you hit in the ground, you're sliding sideways. At some point, you're not going forward, so you don't have the most forward momentum. Most of your momentum is output as far as friction. It's like friction between you and the ground. They usually have like drift tires where they're not the grippiest tires. They're like made and designed to slide on the ground, but like just enough to give you, they like get them hot before they're going in, so there's like enough room to like, or enough grip, I guess, on the ground, just enough to stick to it to keep yourself going, but like not enough to like stop you and have you like something like a Formula One car where they're like made to drive not in a straight line, but like grip. I'm pointing in this straight line now, so I'm going that way. I'm going to turn this corner. I need to have all my wheels on the ground to like stay in a corner. Like these cars have a lot of horsepower, and sometimes like the tires come off of it, the front tires, like they come off the ground and stuff like that, and they look like ultralight. But we also talked about earlier where we were watching the event, where like something that might be kind of fun to do or like look into is grounding, or like playing with the electricity. It's like making it easier for you to communicate with your technology. Is where you could usually, in motors and components, there's like a computer nowadays where you're processing all of these like different feedback loops to keep the homeostatic balance and like prime the responses you would need going into like making the different demands, and like grounding to the body itself is like a way to like communicate as the driver sitting in the car, to like influence it to go in one way or another, like throwing it into an extreme, like maybe an obtuse like turn is what I'm going to call it, where it's like a lot wider and it's not as like narrow like a hairpin. It's the opposite. It's like, and then like you have a lot of speed going, and then what you usually do is you have basically, we've already done this a bunch of times at this point because they're professionals, but you kind of just lean into it, and you know, hey, I'm going to go for this at this rate of speed, so I know that this is like the best way to go about that, right? And maybe like grounding into like the different components of the car so you can communicate with it better, and then like you eliminate most of the excessive need for work as far as calculations and like micro corrections and things like that go, in like the successive reps, and then it becomes more of like a specialized sport. But yeah, this has been our first episode. Thanks for tuning in, and we're looking forward to recording more for you guys.